for the amount of nutrients you have in a specific food, you have increased its nutrient density. For example, you can eat a fistful of French fries. You've gotten a vet bill is if you No, that's a great question. Thanks so much. Let's see if we can do that. Is the atom. Look at that you guys doing. Welcome to Be Fit, Stay Fit America. Gosh, I'm glad you joined us today. In last week's show, we talked to you about introducing a system of training that will get you in and out of the fitness center or completing through your strength training program in a very short period of time. You know, a lot of people think that they can't strength train or can't work out because it just takes too long, but nothing could be further from the truth. You know, we developed a QuickSet system years ago. It's not very well known, but it seems to be getting there. We've discovered a way to be able to get you to strength train by making less weight do more physical work. And that way you can protect the joints and you can get through your workout a lot more efficiently. We're going to show you several different ways of doing that today, and we're even going to try to apply this for the rest of our programs. So whenever we're doing set work, we're going to be exclusively using the QuickSet system. In fact, the QuickSet system is outlined in my book, Be Fit, Stay Fit, Why Your Workout Doesn't Work and How to Fix It. So get a copy of that and you'll be able to follow along with us. Now, with the QuickSet system, we're going to show you using a selectorized machine. In other words, a machine that has a weight stack. We'll show you how to use that. In this case today, to make things a little bit easier, we're going to use a barbell-loaded leverage machine. We're going to be using a chest press, but remember, this works for any modality you want to use. We're also going to be using some dumbbells. I'm going to show you how to do the QuickSet system using something as simple as a push-up, and we'll even use some rubber tubing that you can use right in your own home if you can't get to the fitness center. So, the QuickSet system, the best way, the safest way, and the most effective way to make you stronger. As I mentioned before, the QuickSet system is an effective and an efficient way to work out. But just a couple of words of restriction here. If you've been sedentary for a long time, or you haven't really used the QuickSet system before, or haven't been training with weights for a while, I want to make sure that you do just the initial set of exercise. This really gets you set up and through what is known as the initiation phase of training. Now, we're going to talk about the 3 phases of training in a later show. But if you, as I mentioned, if you haven't been training for a while, I want you to make sure that you don't start the QuickSet system in its entirety until you've gotten your body used to the movement pattern. And that usually takes about 2 or 3 weeks. And as always, if you haven't been training for a while, you need to see your doctor to make sure that everything's ready to go. Now, with the QuickSet system, we're going to use lots of different modalities today. We're going to train using a selectorized machine, which in this case is going to be a bent arm fly. A selectorized machine is a machine with a weight stack, and that way we can control and set the resistance extremely easily. Today also, because we want to do some barbell work, just to make it a little bit easier, we've set up what is called a barbell-loaded leverage machine. Now, this particular machine is a chest press, and we're going to show you how to do the QuickSet system here. What you'll see in each case, no matter where we are, is the equivalent of 2 to 3 sets of properly performed exercise done in usually less than about a minute and a half. And that way we can really make it effective. So let's get started on it. Let's start with the selectorized piece of equipment. As I mentioned to you before, this is a bent arm fly machine. This is a machine that's used to train the chest. But remember, you can use the QuickSet system for any part of the body. You can use it for any lift that you do. It's applicable to all of those. You can see that whenever you lift the leverage bar, the weight stack goes up. You'll also notice that there are numbers on the weight stack. In this case, we're going to start with around 80 pounds. You need to start with a resistance that you can do to momentary fatigue. Remember, we talked about that on our previous show. A momentary fatigue at about 8 to 12 repetitions. Remember, this is an upper body exercise, and whenever we do an upper body exercise, the optimal repetition range is 8 to 12. Now, establishing that amount of resistance is known as the base level. You need to establish your base level, the number of repetitions you can do and the resistance with which you can accomplish it between 8 and 12 for the upper body and 10 to 15 for the lower body. You need to keep in mind also that that might take you 2 or 3 workouts, because once you start, you might try 40 or 50 pounds and only be able to do 4 or 5 repetitions, and then try a lighter weight and not realize that you've already sort of pre-fatigued yourself. So give yourself 1, 2, maybe 3 workouts to really establish that base level so that you reach that momentary or volitional fatigue within the optimal repetition range. You with me? Good. Let's try this here. What I've done is I've set the machine in advance so that I'm in it properly. Now, as we do a lot of the different workouts as we're going to go through our series, making sure you're in the proper position in every piece of equipment you do is critical, particularly for selectorized pieces of equipment. Each piece of selectorized equipment has a rotating portion of it. This is a lever that's attached to, in this case, a rotating cam. And we want to make sure that the shoulder, which is going to be the rotating joint in this particular case, is directly below the center of rotation. So whenever you go to any machine, no matter where you are, it doesn't matter what club you're in or what machine you're using, look for the center of rotation and make sure that the joint around which those muscles are being used is at the center of that rotation. In this case, I've preset it, and what I would do on my workout card is I would set the number, which is usually located on the seat, to indicate to me what the proper setting is for me. For me, I might have a seat setting of 5. Someone who's taller might have a seat setting that's a little bit lower so that they're centered under the machine. Remember, in selectorized equipment, stack-loaded equipment, seat setting is critical to success. Now let's get started. I'm going to grasp the bar on both sides. I've started this case with about 80 pounds. Now let's take a look at the form that we've talked about so many times before. I'm going to lift the weight up quickly but under control, pause, and take the weight down slowly in about 3 to 4 seconds to a good stretch. Back up under control, pause, and then back down under control in about twice the time it takes me to lift it. Now, in establishing a base level, let's assume that I've discovered that 80 pounds, what I have on the machine right now, is enough weight or enough resistance to get me to momentary muscular fatigue in about, say, 10 repetitions. Let's also assume that this next repetition coming up is 10. So I've counted my repetitions, and now I'm coming up to number 10. I accomplish the repetition. I go back down slowly, under control and stretch, and now I try to do number 11, and I fail. I can't complete the repetition. I bring the weight back down, and I come out of the machine. Now, on my card, I'm going to mark next to, in my strength training card, I'm going to mark next to the words bent arm fly, which is on the strength training card. I'm going to put 80 pounds above the line, which is the amount of resistance that I just did, and I'm going to put 10 repetitions below the line. That shows me the workload that I just did. In other words, I lifted 80 pounds 10 times. I know that because I tried number 11 and I couldn't lift the weight. Now, immediately upon momentary fatigue or volitional failure, in other words, I couldn't lift the resistance anymore, I'm going to go over to the weight stack and I'm going to reduce it by about 25 to 30%. Let's try 25% for this one. So in this case, I'm going to go from 80 right here to 60. Normally, I wouldn't be taking so much time in between. I would immediately finish my first lift, move around to the back of the machine, reset the weight, and continue right into my second set. Now, what you'll find is by going directly into the second set of exercise, you will generally get somewhere between 6 and 9 repetitions with about 75% of the original workload. But you also notice that the only amount that we actually record on your card is the first set that we did. So don't really worry about the number of repetitions on your second set, which is really, in a sense, your first quick set. Make sure you record only the number that you did on set number 1. And we'll do that as soon as our entire set is over. Now, let's assume now that I've gotten to about, 7 repetitions, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of a tug. I'm going to try 8, and I can't quite go. I've reached, again, volitional or momentary fatigue. I'm going to put the weight back down. I'm going to reduce it yet again, about another 25%. Let's move it down to, say, 40. In this case, we reduced it by about 1/3. I'm going to go back onto the machine, and I'm going to begin to lift as soon as possible and complete my third set, which is really my second quick set. Generally, I'll get another 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 repetitions when I get to volitional fatigue. Now, that entire process will probably take me between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes. I've just done the equivalent of 3 sets of exercise for my chest in less than 2 minutes. Now, what do? Well, my chest is now done. I can move on to the next exercise, and I don't have to spend minute after meaningless minute waiting in between my sets. And that's where most of the wasted time in a weight room comes in. Now, we're going to show you a couple other ways to do that using different types of resistance. Now, what we're going to do is do the quick set system again. This time we're going to use a barbell. To make it a little bit easier, we're going to show you how to do it on a barbell loaded leverage machine. I've loaded the machine with enough barbells to, let's make the assumption that we're going to have me reach failure somewhere between 8 and 12 repetitions. In other words, we're going to assume that I've been doing this before and I've established my base level, that area, that level at which I reach momentary fatigue. So let's get started with this. Now, watch the form. Remember, we talked about that before. Up under control, pause, and then back down slowly under control until I reach a good stretch. Up under control, pause, back down 4, 3, 2, 1, and stretch. Up under control and back down. Now, we're going to make some assumptions here again. Let's assume now that I'm at repetition number 9. And now I'm going to try number 10, and I barely make number 10. I'm starting to feel a little bit of tension against my chest and my triceps. I try number 11, and I can't quite do it. So I replace the weight, bring the resistance back down. Now, I know on my card I'm going to put the amount of resistance I have back here, which in this case is a little bit more than we used over here. I've got about 140 pounds on this one, but we have it divided side to side. I'm going to step off the machine. I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to pull some of the barbells off. I'm going to reduce it by about 25 or 30%. I'm going to come forward and come back onto the machine. And you notice I'm not taking very much time, as little time as possible. I'm going to come back up and continue to lift. Up under control, back down under control. Up under control and back down. Now, because this is the second set, or the first quick set, I want to get as many repetitions as possible. I'm not going to record the number, but I do want to get as close to momentary fatigue or volitional failure as I can. Let's assume that I got, 7 repetitions. And now I'm going to attempt to do 8, and I can't quite get it all the way up. I'm going to replace the weight down, and I'm going to go to the back of the machine again. And I'm going to reduce it one more time. In this case, I'm now using about 50% of the weight that I was using at the beginning of the exercise, but it's still challenging my muscles. That's what I mentioned to us before. It's less weight doing more work. That way we're protecting the joint, we're challenging the muscles, and we're getting stronger. So we have just done the equivalent of 3 sets of exercise in about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Isn't that a great way to get through your chest workout? And now I'm going to move on to another muscle group. But before we do that, I want to show you another modality, another way to do your quick set system. Here's another way to do your chest exercise using a different modality and not have to use any equipment at all. For those of you who might not be able to get to the fitness center or might not be able to get there that day, I want to show you a different way of doing the quick set system. We're going to do the initial set and then just one quick set, and I'll show you how easy that is. We're going to do a chest press upside down, what we call a push-up. It's real simple to do. Take a typical push-up position with your back flat, your butt down, and I'm going to go down under control, pause, and then back up. Now notice when I come down, I'm going down slowly. I'm not trying to do my push-ups like this. I'm going to come up under control and pause, down slowly under control and pause, up under control in about 1 to 2 seconds, down in about 2 to 4 seconds. Now, let's assume that I got to about 9 repetitions, and now I'm going to try my 10th. I just barely make my 10th repetition. I go back down under control, and now I can't get to number 11. Well, here's the way that I can change that. I drop to my knees. What I've done is I've changed the leverage. I've taken some of the weight and some of the resistance off the exercise, and I can continue to do my push-ups easily until I reach momentary fatigue. On my workout card, I would simply put above the line the letters BW for body weight and the number of repetitions I was able to do before I had to drop to my knees to complete the exercise. So it's really a quick set system. The initial set to momentary fatigue, and then we drop to our knees, changing the leverage, reducing the resistance, and allowing us to make our body do a little bit more work before we stop the exercise. Another easy way to do the quick set system.
This week our question of the week is from Tom in Glendale, Arizona, and he writes that he's a 37-year-old and he hasn't worked out in several years, but he was a competitive athlete in high school, and he wanted to know how he could get back into a regular fitness routine.
You know, Judy, that's a great question, and I get that a lot. The first thing I would recommend to Tom is that he starts out slow. What happens with a lot of people when they haven't been working out in a while is that they start out too fast, they get sore, they get frustrated, they don't make the gains they think they're going to make, and they just quit their program, and that's why their program doesn't work. But the other thing you mentioned is important. Tom is over the age of 35, and a male over the age of 35 who's been sedentary for a long time or hasn't been working out really needs to see his doctor before getting started on any fitness program. But after he does, I would recommend he start with a walking/running program. Depending on what his athletic endeavor was, he might be able to transition up to running relatively easily, or he could work out in the gym, maybe using an elliptical trainer or a treadmill. For his strength, I would want him working on the 6 major muscle groups that he can: chest, back and shoulders, hips and legs. That makes it easy for him to gain lean body mass, which will help to reduce his fat weight. And the third thing I'd want him to do is to make sure he stretches, going through a full range of motion when he strength trains, and make sure that he uses flexibility training when he's done. The rest is really going to be up to his nutrition. I would always recommend that anyone on a weight management program reduce their calories by about 200 calories a day. Over a period of a year, he can lose 20 to 30 pounds of fat weight, gain 5 or 10, maybe 15 pounds of lean body mass, be leaner, feel better, clothes fit better, and he's going to look great. So for Tom, I would tell him just to start out slow, and remember, it didn't happen overnight. So let's make sure that it works slowly over time and that the process is a gradual one.
Thank you, Dr. Paul.
You're welcome. We've shown you how to do the QuickSet system on a modality called a bent arm fly machine, a selectorized machine using a weight stack. We've also shown you how to do the QuickSet using a barbell. In this case, we used a barbell loaded leverage chest press. We even showed you how to do a QuickSet using your own body weight in an exercise that we all know and love called the push-up. Now I want to show you a different free weight modality called dumbbells. We're going to do an upper back exercise using the QuickSet system and using dumbbells. We're going to make a couple of assumptions here again now. Let's assume that I've already established that the resistance that I need to reach momentary fatigue between 8 and 12 repetitions, remember this is an upper body exercise, is already here. That's my first exercise that I'm going to do, the first modality or the first amount of weight that I'm going to use. Once I fail on that, I'm going to put that weight down, move it out of the way, and bring on one that's about 25 to 30% smaller or lower in weight. Now, a little bit of point about safety. When you're using dumbbells in the QuickSet system, when you put the first weight down, make sure you roll it completely out of the way before you pick up the second dumbbell so you don't end up smashing those knuckles on the second set. Let's begin. I'm going to start by bringing the weight up quickly but under control, pause, and bring it all the way back down. I'm keeping my upper body, my torso, parallel to the floor, and I'm supporting my weight on my knees and on my palms on the bench. Now, here comes the assumptions again. Let's say this is repetition number 9. I do it easily. I stretch at the bottom. I bring up number 10, starting to feel a little bit more difficult, and I try number 11 and I can't quite complete it. I put the dumbbell down and notice I'm going to roll it out of the way, and I'm going to pick up a second dumbbell which is about 25 to 30% lower. I immediately grasp the dumbbell and I start the same exercise. What we'll find is I'll accomplish normally about 6 to 9 repetitions on the second set, which is the first quick set. Remembering, of course, that we only record the first set that we did, but we'll do that after we finish all our quick sets. Let's assume I've gone to momentary failure on set number 2. My first quick set, I roll that dumbbell out of the way, pick up another dumbbell, and we continue the exercise. Well, you get the idea. We want to make sure that we always are challenging the muscle, but with the QuickSet system, we can challenge it very easily by making less weight do more work. The QuickSet system is a great way to train and make your body stronger and more efficient without damaging the joints. One simple way of accomplishing the QuickSet system at home is using a simple system of rubber tubing. Now, you can see that this is pretty easy to use. This is blue and this is orange, and in this case, one of them is a little bit easier to do than the other one. You can purchase these at any fitness supply store or any sporting goods store. And let me show you how we'd apply the QuickSet system this way. I'm going to start with the rubber tubing that's a little more difficult or a little bit more challenging to do because of its thickness. I'm going to step on the tubing, and we're going to do an exercise for the shoulders called an upright row. We're going to start by pulling up under control, pause, and then down slowly under control, just like we do every other exercise. Now, let's make a few assumptions again. We need to reach momentary muscular fatigue between 8 and 12 repetitions. Let's assume that I've just done number 8. I'm now trying number 9. Remember, stay with good form. Now I go to number 10 and I can't quite lift it all the way through the range of motion. That's momentary fatigue or volitional failure. So what am I going to do? I'm going to reduce the resistance, just like we did on the barbells, just like we did on the dumbbells, just like we did on the selectorized machine. I'm going to step on the tubing. This one's slightly easier to use because it's not quite as thick. And we go right into the exercise in as little time as possible in between. Up under control and down. Up under control and down. And we can record this one on our card also. So there's lots and lots of ways to do the quick set system, whether you're at home, the fitness center, whether you're using barbells, dumbbells, selectorized machines, even bricks and bags of sand if you can measure it. Try the quick set system. It's safe, it's easy, and it's one of the most effective ways I've ever found to get your workout done completely and in a very brief period of time.